I have taken hundreds and hundreds of exams throughout higher education, and I consistently ranked at the top of my classes. I'm studying at Lancaster University, which is a top 10 UK university, in a language that I had to learn from scratch. While studying, I also worked as a part-time job, stayed fit and healthy, and I also managed to upload some videos to this YouTube channel. So I'm going to compress all these years of brutally honest exam tips, tricks, lessons, mistakes, whatever you want to call it, into this short video. I think one of the biggest contributors to your exam success is the format you use to study. And what I mean by that is that, are you actually revising in a way that mimics the exam? For example, I made this really silly mistake, which is that our exams are short answer questions, essay questions, and data analysis questions. But my form of revision was to do true and false questions, fill in the gaps, multiple choice, which were good. They made me understand and memorize a lot of things, but they're not going to be optimal for the type of exam that I'm going to be taking. So what I really encourage you to do is that before you take any sort of exams, look at the past papers, look for patterns, look for techniques, look for what the examiners actually want from you, because exams are just a game and you have to know what you're optimizing for. And if you don't know what you're optimizing for, you're going to optimize for something that's completely irrelevant, and even if you put loads of effort, it's going to be useless. And another mistake that I have done in the past, and I see a lot of people doing it around me, is that we follow this myth, which is that we think we should learn something somehow and then we get tested on it to test ourselves, but that's not how the brain works. If you want to remember something, you have to pull things out of your brain and then make mistakes and then put it back into your brain, and that way you're gonna remember things really, really well. So before you even understand anything, before you even know anything about the topic, getting a test on that topic and making mistakes on purpose is a really, really good way to save yourself so much time, engage your brain rather than just passively reading something. And when you get something wrong, you're gonna really, really remember it. So that means no highlighting, no rereading your notes, no summarizing lecture slides, because all of these are just passive. You're not really using your brain, are you? The way you differentiate between a good technique that utilizes active recall and a bad technique that is passive is that by looking at yourself. Are you having a headache? Are you frustrated? Do you just want to get rid of this? Do you just not want to continue anymore? If the answer is yes, then you're doing the right thing. By being confused, by having a hard time to understand something, that means you're doing the right thing, and it's a good sign that you're using your time very effectively. The third mistake that I have done in the past is that sometimes when something is quite hard to understand, I'll be like, I'll just memorize it. Memorizing something, even if I don't understand it, it's probably just faster and I don't have time in an exam period. But that's quite bad, and especially in the long run, you're not going to remember that whatsoever. So just invest a bit of time to understand a hard concept, and then memorizing it will be really easy, and keeping it in your memory for a long period of time is also going to be a lot easier. And personally, I don't think lecture slides or lecture recordings or attending lectures is often like the best way, because I think lecturers are good academics but they're not really good teachers. They don't know how to explain things very well, or they assume that you know a lot about this topic when I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I think lecture slides are good for a reference to know what you're going to be covering, but the way I think about it is like a tunnel. You start with a very generic and really, really good YouTube videos, because there are loads out there and they give you a great overall picture of the topic, and the videos are always quite impressive and they invest a lot of money into it because they make money off of it. So by going off of YouTube first, you're gonna have a really good foundation, but as you go narrower, everyone will have different questions about this topic, and the way you really understand something is by asking a lot of questions and then getting the answer, and then you think of more questions and then you answer them, and then that repeat, rinse and repeat is the process where you get your head around the specific topic. And the perfect tool for this is AI. Keep asking it questions and it will answer you. Keep asking, it will not judge you, it will not get bored of you. And best of all, you can tell it to make the explanation shorter, longer, simpler, whatever it is you want. It's very customizable and it's available all the time. The two key rules when you're revising something, especially when there are like loads of topics, is that you want to utilize spaced repetition and also you want to utilize intervaling. Instead of giving like a week for each module and approaching revision as chunks, it's much more effective to mix all of them together, because like I don't know why, but I think your brain just gets confused and don't know where each piece of information belongs to the bigger picture, and that results in better learning. And that follows quite nicely with spaced repetition as well, because the way our brain works is that naturally over time there is a curve where we forget things quickly over time, but by interrupting this curve at certain times we can almost reset the curve in a way that makes the curve flatter and flatter and flatter over time, to the point where if you've done enough revision and enough exposure over a long period of time, you're gonna remember it no matter what, because that's telling your brain, look, this is very important, I've repeated it multiple times at different periods of times and you have to remember it, and the brain does that. So beforehand I was like, I'll give physiology a week and then biochemistry a week and then genetics a week, but the way I do it now, I mix them all together and then do that revision throughout the 3 weeks. So like these two rules go together and I always keep them in mind when I'm trying to revise loads of modules at once. And finally, the biggest contributor when it comes to revision is volume. There's no way around it. The more revision you do, the better score you're gonna have, even if you have the absolute best techniques. If you'd have not done enough volume, you're gonna fall out short, and even if somebody else has done double the volume as you but have not the greatest technique, they will beat you no matter what, because exams are mainly, I would say 70% volume. The more you get exposure to the techniques, the more you get exposure of what they want from you, and testing yourself is what's gonna determine your grade. Because like beforehand I thought I have the best techniques, I don't really need to do a lot of volume, but that was really wrong, and I regretted it so much, and I realized that it's mainly about volume. And this is an issue I ran into, and you might run into if you do a lot of revision, which is that university or school or college or whatever, they give you a very specific amount of resources to revise from, like only 5 years of past papers, and that's probably not enough. So you want more quizzes or more questions, and the best way to find those is to make them yourself by using AI. So like when I had to revise for my exams, for my uni exams, I just gave AI the type of questions that come up in the exam. So like I just gave it a PDF of our past paper, and I also just gave it one of the lectures that I want to revise, and I just told it to give me questions and then answers at the end so that I can mark myself. So basically you can now do a limited revision, and it's up to you how much you spend your time on volume. Another couple of thoughts that I just thought of at the top of my head. I see a lot of people, including myself, where we just go to the strongest topic and we start with our strongest topic because we feel comfortable, we feel that we're gonna get a lot done, we're gonna feel encouraged. But oftentimes the way exams work is that they test you on your width of knowledge, not in your depth. So if you focus really hard on one topic but you leave the rest, you're gonna get really bad score compared to another person who's done a bit of revision on all of the modules or all of the areas. So it's always best to go to your weakest point and then go from there. And lastly, this might be controversial, but I think plans are just a bunch of bullshit, because it's nearly impossible to stick to a very specific plan and you're gonna be demotivated because you had to change some things. I think a good outline for what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be covering in day-to-day basis is alright, but it has to be very flexible, and some modules will need more time, some topics will require you more time, and some topics don't require that much time, and you can see yourself often having to shift things around. So like, don't feel demotivated. It's very natural, and I think it's much better to focus on getting rid of any distractions, because focused work is so underrated. Like, I swear, just by getting from the living room to your bedroom, you get 5 times more productive, or even 10 times more productive. It's uncomfortable, I know, it's not the easiest, I know, but if you do really focused revision for a short period of time, You can utilize the rest of the time to do more revision if you are short on time, or get out of the house for a run, or go to the gym, or hang out with your friends to like for a small rest. And that way you do really hard work, but you also rest hard as well. So your mood will be better the next day, your health will be better, and that leads to a better exam performance overall. These are all the things that I thought of. If you have any more exam tips that helped you during the exam, please pop them down below. I'm still learning as just everyone else, and thank you for watching.